Greetings, I'm Meredith Noble. I'm going to be co-presenting here with Aurora. We're I guess you could say, founders of sorts with Learn Grant Writing. We teach people how to write winning grants. The reason I'm giving more intro for those of you that are actually students in this program is because, as you can tell, we actually have some other people on the line today. Essentially, this is usually a private webinar that we offer once a month, the last Wednesday of the month, to students in the Learn Grant Writing program. But given the topic and given the times, we felt like this would actually be a good one to kind of open up publicly, because I think it's something a lot of us are grappling with. So Aurora and I are glad to have all of the extra new blood here. Feel free to jump in if you've got comments or questions, or the group chat box also works really well for interacting.
And you can find the chat box. It's down there at the bottom of your screen. You just roll over it to access.
Exactly. Sweet. Okay. So how to work productively in uncertainty. Top 10 tips that Aurora and I have for working remotely. We've been doing this for a couple years. I actually have some notes on some things I wanted to share real quick. So let me pull that up. Okay, so I don't know if many of you have actually seen on perhaps your invoices that our company name is Seneca Works. And I don't know if anyone's ever wondered, like, where the heck did that name come from? Just be sure to mute your line, by the way, if you're not on. And the idea behind the name was my favorite lake in the Wind River with range in Wyoming was Seneca Lake. And I also was thinking of DreamWorks, the movie production company, and how that, as an early age, made me think of, wow, that's a very creative and innovative company. And then really at the base of it was Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, is this very interesting approach to thinking about, managing our mindset. And so I wanted to share this one quote with you guys. I think a lot of us find inspiration and groundedness in different forms, but I do really like kind of coming back to Stoic philosophy. And think this one is particularly relevant right now. So a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials. And I think it's safe to say that we are all certainly being, our gems are getting rolled right now, right? And in this experience. And so just wanted to acknowledge that, this is, before we dive into just the nitty gritty of specifics on tips, just acknowledging that this is a hard time, but it's also this kind of really neat opportunity that we're all going to grow and become much more resilient and strong from. Okay, so I missed the fun here. So within uncertainty lies opportunity. Like Aurora was here working remotely with me, I guess last week or the week before, here in Valdez, Alaska, and she'd never snowshoed. And I was like, we're going to go on a snowshoe up to the sauna so we can work up there and be creative. And look, she had a great attitude, even when she realized that you can't back up in snowshoes. They do not have a reverse. So that was kind of fun. But anyway, what I wanted to get at with kind of bringing this up is that because we're in unprecedented times, we also get to do unprecedented things. So I've been spending a lot of time thinking about, well, what are the things that I want to start doing I haven't had the time for? What should I continue doing that I already do? And what should I stop because it's just not reasonable to happen right now, or it's not a priority, so stop trying to overstress ourselves with it? Are we putting our health first? And what kind of mini intentions can even be set right now so that this day goes well, this week goes well, the month, right? Because that's something that we have control over. So I just wanted to ask to see where the group is at. So maybe just throwing in the chat box, who's working from home? You could say yes if you are. I'm curious how many people have been sent home. Lots here. Emily, Tasha, Jocelyn. Hi, Jocelyn. Cool. Heidi, Sophia, Jennifer, Fran. Who's T. Martin? Maggie. Can Aurora call herself okay, better question. Who's working at the office? Tina. Okay, nice, Tina. Sweet. Yeah, I guess, who's working from home with kids right now? Yeah, Will. A lot. Alicia or Alasha? Can you tell me how to pronounce your name correctly, by the way? Part-time.
It's Alicia.
Alicia. Okay, thank you. Cool. Yeah, Jocelyn part-time. That does seem like a blessing right now. Kid-free morning. Kalisa. Yep. Home Alone with Melody. Okay. Sorry I'm not closer. You guys could like ship all your kids out here and like, like, I feel like I've got it a little easy. Maybe Maggie will. Yep, Leslie's watching grandkids. Okay. Working is a loose term these days. So true. Okay, who's working actually in an office? Is anyone like in their traditional workspace that they normally go to? Kind of looked like Bree was at hers. Yep. Are people still coming into your gym? You're on the treadmill. Nice. That is so rad. Yeah, so not very many.
The gym is closed, but our physical therapist is still seeing patients. So I'm here and I'm just doing my grant stuff. And
yeah, well, you have got a lot of time to get some work done.
I know. It's nice.
Yep, this is nice. Okay, cool. And yeah, and you work from home all the time, so you've got the space that is the same. Okay. So who wishes some magical unicorn pixie dust could make COVID-19 go away, right? Like all of us. So I think this is interesting. It's definitely like all of you are working from home. All right, so Aurora is going to get started with how her setup, what she has learned about setting up a good workspace.
So the picture on the right is actually my first attempt at my home office. As you can see, it's in a closet. The reasoning behind this for me was that I wanted to have a space that was separate from my bedroom. And also it had the secondary benefit of me being able to close the doors so my cat couldn't sit on the keyboard and wake up the computer at all hours. I have learned since then that furniture and good posture totally matters. And one of the most important things is having a nice chair. It's a great investment. Some, happy back and happy wrists boost your productivity like nobody's business. And speaking of wrists, another incredibly important thing, yes, is the proper mousing technique. I actually Googled this because my wrists were hurting so badly. And I was a big offender of the two pictures that are X'd. After correcting my mousing technique, my world has changed and I am such a happier worker. All right, backing to the list.
I'd like to add too, what I've done is I've learned to use both hands.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's kind of a fun mental challenge to try to be like ambidextrous with your mousing hand. Nice. I've got my left hand is usually my drawing hands on the tablet, but no, totally, I 100% agree. So for me, having a full keyboard has made a real big difference because even with my kind of small lady hands, it like being on a laptop especially is just kind of crunched. So if you have access, it's awesome, especially one with a 10 key. I'm a very visual person, so having a whiteboard and a notebook are really handy. And it also has that extra benefit of being able to write. You imprint in your mind what you're writing about. So that's really nice. And then screen breaks, I know it seems like a no-brainer, like everybody says this, but it's way easier said than done. But for the amount of time that you spend away from your screen, like you'll totally make up for it in productivity has been my experience. And then natural light and plants are just like extra, but totally increase my happiness quota or quotient. So yeah.
That actually segues very nicely into what my office space looks like. Oops. So I used to work in a Connex shipping container, and when it was really cold this winter, we even had blankets over the doors, so there was zero light coming in, and it was definitely a man cave of sorts. And so I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm losing my mind. Need some natural light. So moved into kind of our the guest tiny house that's where I live, so that and took it over as an office. So this is now where I work. And lots and lots and lots of natural daylight, which is great. Sometimes so much you can't see your screen, which is a good problem to have. But in terms of because I've worked from a lot of different places to get this all right, I'll say that one thing that's key is really being intentional about setting what that workspace is and where maybe it's in minimal passing zone of where your children might be. Like it's not them walking to the kitchen along that route. I definitely I really prioritize setting a routine and for when I'm going to do my deep work, and try to close down email, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and not open it until I've completed my first tasks. I put my phone away and on silent. It kind of helps that it doesn't actually even vibrate when it's on silent, so it absolutely can't distract me, and no notifications ever come onto my phone, ever. If I want to look at it and see what's happened, I can, but otherwise it's not telling me to get my attention. And then when I'm really kind of struggling to get into a state of focus, I have found that if I go to this one particular little routine, I will focus. And that for me is lighting a candle, putting on some chapstick, putting on a specific playlist that has no music or no vocals, and then what else is it? And then Xing out of all the things that are on my screen, because I don't know about anybody else, but all of a sudden midday, you've got like 30 browsers up, right? So if I can do those 4 things, I know that it's time to be into a deep state of work. Aurora, what do you have to say about this topic? This is Aurora's son too, and his groovy hair.
Yes, this is my 13-year-old Gabe. And actually, so the meal that we're eating in this picture is like a super, super fast, like a Instant Pot stew with Pillsbury biscuits just thrown on top and shoved in the oven. So I would say that prep time was probably like sub 15 minutes, but I totally felt like Martha Stewart. So, Gabe has made a few meals for me, which has actually been a huge silver lining to being home together, which I would have never expected. He cooked me like dumplings yesterday. So I guess the important part about, or one of the most important parts about working remotely is having scheduled eating times for me, because it keeps me from overeating when I'm bored and undereating when I'm like zoned into a project. And also having a like pre-made supply of chopped up veggies and stuff helps me immensely from like just defaulting to, like cereal or something that isn't necessarily the best caloric intake that I can have.
Yeah, that's a good advice. Yep, eating healthy is key. Which, speaking of which, this meal on the right, Aurora made for me when she was out a couple weeks ago. We were working together. This is something I picked up from Brendan Brouchard, who has the most annoying emails that'll just inundate your inbox. But what I have to say, when I read his book about Habits of Highly Effective People or something, it's actually, that's not what it's called. I'm forgetting the name. But essentially the biggest takeaway I had from that book was that high performers are high performers because they manage their transitions between activities. And I can be really bad about blurring those lines. Like, for example, I maybe want to get on the spin bike to get some exercise, and I'll be like, oh, but I could also watch my online course that I've been meaning to take, and I'll bike while I watch that. And yeah, great, I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, but I also exit that workout time pretty drained because I didn't actually give my brain a break. Or in between tasks, like maybe I've finished task 1 and I'm going to go have lunch, I'm on my phone scrolling mindlessly, and when I look up, I realize like I am drained. So it's a way to kind of break the habit of not managing transitions is being very intentional about, okay, this is now my lunchtime. I'm going to go make lunch and really enjoy the meal and be thankful for the nutrients it's providing me. It sounds cheesy, but it's actually something I've been working on doing so that I am like being very present in the things that I'm doing instead of trying to blur doing multiple things at once, because I find it's consistently a good way to get kind of drained and like energy killed. So thinking about how you can manage your transitions between activities is something to think about. Seems like Aurora says I'm a certified baller at optimizing work-life balance, but this is totally not true. It's a work in progress. I don't know what percent of the days are like a perfectly executed day, and lots of them are not. But I am finding as time goes on, I'm like, as much as I don't like to have rhythm and schedule and rigidity, there is something to like actually being really intentional about what you're doing, so that I just actually have the energy to go on. How about riding the wave here, Aurora?
All right. So for me, I have a very like mercurial productivity wave. There are some days that I want nothing more than to focus on a super in-depth project and work it till completion. And then there's some days that I would just like sit there and spin my wheels. So that kind of, it piggybacks off of Meredith's concept of just be gentle with yourself. And there are some things that I try to do to jumpstart that productivity. So I keep a notebook, and each new day gets a new page. It helps me feel like I'm having a fresh start. It helps, like I date it. I put my top 3 to 5 tasks, and then whatever notes or sketches I need for the day. And then the second is just keeping a routine. That kind of helps kickstart the brain into going, okay, it's work mode right now. But all that said, if it's not coming to you that day, or it's not coming to me, like,
talk about yesterday. I mean, speak to that. I feel like that's a good example of like, you had intentions to be done by 4 or 5, but like your mojo just, I mean, it's real. So you should share that.
Yeah. Okay. So yesterday, putting together this slideshow and the PDF that I don't know if you guys saw it's on Facebook. I had intentions of being done by 4. Yeah. And it ended up being more like, I don't know, I think 11:30 is when I signed up off, because I really wanted something good for you guys. And I kept on thinking of new things, but I definitely needed to take a break for a while and clear my head and shake it off, because it wasn't quite shaping up how I had envisioned it when I started off.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like what was so powerful about that is that you didn't keep trying to muscle through it, because you were clearly like hitting a wall and you were frustrated, and it was like you took the right action of just being, I'm going to go to the store with my son and we're taking a break, and I'm going to get back to this when I can get back to this. And even though getting back to this was 7, 8, 9 p.m., at least when you got back to it, you were able to crank it out in 2 hours and feel very good about it. So that's something to acknowledge, that like, yes, as much as we'd love to have schedule, if it's just not coming, it's not coming.
So that's why I have weekly hour goals instead of daily goals, because there are some days that, I can have 2 hours of productivity, and there's some days that I have like 10 hours of productivity. So having that weekly goal instead of a daily goal kind of helps me be a little bit more patient with myself and give a little bit more lenience to when I actually feel really good about working. So.
And if you're me, you just like do your work around the schedule. So if it's a sunny day, I'm going to go play. And if it's cloudy, I'm going to work. Anyway, I'm loving the comments, by the way, that are coming in. It's totally cool. A lot of good suggestions I just wanted to call out. Like Sophia, yeah, how draining it feels to feel constantly productive. And I'll tell you that the hardest part about transitioning from a normal office job to working for myself was that I felt this insane pressure to be like at it at 9 a.m. and working all day till 5. But then I realized like I actually work on the weekends because that's when I feel productive, and I work late into the night often because I'm feeling good. And so I am actually putting in lots and lots of time. It does not matter if I don't get started until 3 one day, but I would feel so guilty. And so it's taken a long time to kind of overcome that weird like mental barrier we have, where like a work day has to be in an 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. And especially for those of you that have kids at home and you really have to be dynamic, try your best to not feel guilty about it, because you're getting the work done. There's no need to work all the time. Will adding a comment about not eating and multitasking. Oh my gosh, so true. I'm a total stress eater and have to work on that. Jennifer, yeah, call out to Jennifer real quick. So she has been working her butt off, noting 128 hours last week. She works for the Anchorage School District. making sure that the kids that are not coming to school anymore are still getting fed. And it's been, obviously that means she's fallen behind in the course, but she's working on stuff that really matters. And it's very cool that you showed up today, Jen, because you have been working so hard. Yeah, Fran, same. Yeah, Denise, love having you here. And like, I love that Fran and Jennifer, you guys might like tee up as a collaboration a team to work on this.
Hey, Meredith,
Hit
can
me.
I say one thing?
Please.
I got a call out from your community in Valdez yesterday.
What? Tell me.
About feeding. It was a question about why isn't the school district feeding kids that are not in the school district, and is that okay? And because it seems like you guys are, and so I got some questions on that. So I don't know if they need like donations or whatever the case may be, but I did talk with some of your city officials and say, your school is running under the current guidance to just feed the school, and we are feeding the rest of the community, but we're doing it in poverty pockets. And so you don't have a poverty pocket officially, but we kind of gave them some guidance. And so if there's anybody from your community doing child feeding that needs resources, I'm happy to kind of talk to them.
That's cool. I think Maggie, you'd probably be the person, since she has kids in school locally, that would have a good pulse on how to sync up Jennifer's expertise.
Jennifer, I'll go ahead and take down your contact information. I have been following that question from the few concerned homeschool parents that think it's kind of unfair that we are only feeding district kids. From what I can tell, there's a couple concerned parents, but their kids don't need. And so it's just this question of need. But I'll definitely take your information down and pass that on to the people I know who are kind of concerned with this.
Yeah, and just know that there might be some additional flexibility coming up this Friday that might change that. We're kind of monitoring it. But I mean, it was somebody from your city who called me yesterday. But yeah, still, if it can't be covered by the school and there is a need, that might be a project for somebody.
Yeah, just I know that was definitely an interesting question, because what are these kids doing? Because they're homeschool students.
Right.
What are they doing during the school day when we were all in school? So I think this question's a little bigger than the disaster relief, but we'll definitely get you connected with the right people.
Yeah. I threw up a home delivery. Yeah, I threw up a home delivery model that I'm pretty sure will get shot down in my district, but we'll see.
Oh, nice. Maybe it'll work here.
We are doing home deliveries. I know our school buses are making food routes.
Yeah, we're doing that too, but this is a little bit more like for the medically fragile, or if people are already quarantining. We're getting requests from Girdwood, which is kind of a nested community like Valdez. Where they might not have the need, but they are isolating really well. And so they're separated by a long highway. So there might be some safety interest in setting something up for them as a demo project. So I'm actually curious if I could get like Providence or somebody to just give me $5,000 to try it over here. But I mean, I think to any extent that you're keeping your community insular and protecting the big medical facilities right now in COVID, I think it would be a quick and easy
it's a great
ask for grant writers. So
yep, there are a lot of new grant funding coming available right now too. So an interesting time to be paying attention to this.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, if you have a chance, maybe drop in your info so that we can connect you with Maggie.
Okay.
Hey, Meredith.
Yeah.
You just said something I've been thinking about. You said there's a lot of new grant money coming online. And I assumed that as a result of the COVID-19 that there would be more philanthropic money coming out. How would I find that?
Instrumental is actually keeping a list going right now. Aurora, maybe you'd have a chance to go find that. I had posted it in the Facebook group. I don't think...
And I'm so happy that you made a Facebook group. It's so much, it will remind me to check it so much more than having to go to the community. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the suggestion. So for anyone else that's on the line that's referencing it, we created a private Facebook group actually for students because our internal community group it's just not perfect. So yeah, that's going to be a really cool resource, and we'll keep posting stuff in there as we discover them. But I do know that Instrumental is using their algorithms to every day go poll if there's anything new. And I don't think that list is crazy huge yet, but I also think that's because organizations, there is some time in actually setting these things up and putting process together with how you apply and how they deliver it. So I suspect that we'll see a lot more coming on soon. Nice, Aurora. Thanks. Aurora just dropped the link for it into the chat box. Alrighty. Let's carry on to tip number 6. Okay, so if anybody's read my book, you know that I'm really, really big on this one. And I actually got this tip from reading The One Thing. I don't know if anyone's read that before. The One Thing. I don't even remember. Oops, trying to type the author, but essentially the idea is the word priority means you can have is the most important thing. So the word priorities doesn't actually really mean anything because you can't have many most important things. There can only be one. So every day I start out, or the night before, set my list of what are the 3 things that I want to accomplish on this day. And the number 1 task I'm going to do before I look at my email, before I do anything else. And oftentimes it maybe is like the dreaded, not super fun thing I want to do, but it's important and it's hard work. Because you can blow through a whole day just doing very light, shallow work. Like you should see how my email's getting a little backed up right now, but it's because I'm prioritizing, the deep, important tasks, and then I'll take care of my loose ends on Thursday. Thank you, Aurora. She just posted it, The One Thing, Gary Keller and Jay Pappison or something. So yeah, basically what I'll do is, I'm going to write out my 3 things. Of course, sometimes you've got 4 or 5, but if I get to 4 or 5, those are bonus tasks. And I think to the point Sophia brought up earlier, like sometimes, yes, you can get to 4 and 5, but you're also like burning yourself out. If you're doing 3 serious tasks that actually matter, they're probably at least an hour and a half each to do. And it's okay to just draw a line before you're completely trashed, right? Like do your 3 things and call it. And then I track my time associated with those tasks so that I kind of know how I'm spending my time, and because I do track it. So I'll do task 1, the hardest one. That usually gets me to about 11 a.m. So it's usually like about a 2-hour task. Check some email, go have a lunch break, get outside. And a lot of times I'll even go like kind of all afternoon. I might do it 12 to 3 or even longer. But then, I'll crank out task 2 and 3 and like from about 4 to 7 p.m. or even 8 p.m. is just kind of how my schedule works. But I'm taking a break in between each task and definitely doing like stretching and trying to be very active in between those things so that there is a mental differentiator between task 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, Jen just asked about the Facebook group, and sounds all good. Definitely get that we'll have, yes. So I invited a lot of people through your work emails, but just add it with your private email to that Facebook group. Okay, so anyway, that's just like my biggest recommendation, and just putting it down on a Post-it the night before or every day. And a lot of times I'll actually kind of plan out the whole week of what those tasks will look like. So you've got a good vision for the most important activities to knock out that week, which for many of you or might be curious, I'm trying to actually finish my audiobook and just cannot get into the radio station to finish recording like 10 seconds of audio, which is killing me. So in this structure, I've got a question: when do you actually open and answer emails? So I'll do like a quick look in the morning for anything that's like burning and pressing, but usually there's not anything that burning and pressing. So I'll respond to some emails like after task 1. So that kind of 11:30 to noon window. And then I'll grab a couple more in the afternoon at like 2:30 or 3, because that's when I'm mentally pretty dull and not great at doing deep work. And otherwise, I let my emails definitely accumulate through the week until Thursday or Friday. And then on that day is when I'll take care of all of my loose ends and when I'll actually get back to everybody. And what I have found is that a lot of things just go away. You don't actually have to respond to them at all anyway. Or like it really can wait. It can wait 24 to 36 hours, 48 hours. It's fine. And that seems to work really well for me. And then I'll get my email down to inbox 0 or almost, like maybe 3 or 4 emails are left. Amy has a good tip. She likes to use Boomerang because oh my gosh, I've been wanting to know how to do this. You can pause your inbox and it reduces the compulsion to go to inbox 0 to feel like I'm doing something. That's so true. So Amy, just to clarify, so what it does is it sends your emails like in a batch, like it's holding them until you say, okay, I want to look at my emails at 11, and then it'll deliver them. Yeah, that's cool. That's a great tip. I'm definitely looking into it because I've wanted to always know because even if you have to go into your email to grab something, if you see a new email, it's just so stinking distracting. So that's a really cool tip, and I would love a link to getting that, or if it's like a plug-in or something, definitely want to use it. Cool. All right. Aurora, hit us up with some mental health tips.
All right. So this is near and dear to my heart. It's an amazing percentage of the population who, deals with these types of feelings or, complicated feelings. And it's not something that we talk a ton about. So I just want to first say, if you're feeling any of these things, it's totally normal, and there's a ton of other people who are going through it too. So if you want to talk about it, like, chances are you're going to help normalize it for someone else too. Make your mom proud and take your vitamins and supplements, especially for us Alaskans, your vitamin D. And if you have some daily prescriptions that you take, I know that getting into the doctor's offices are super tough right now because they're just overwhelmed and super cautious. So if you call up your doctor and you ask for like a 90-day prescription instead of a 30-day prescription, chances are they're going to be super willing to do that. So you have less of a overwhelm. And also it minimizes your trips to the store or the pharmacy that you get your prescriptions at. Another important thing for me is just good mental hygiene. So giving yourself time to clean out your thoughts completely. I know Meredith and I are both huge advocates for journaling to kind of like help process some of the more difficult emotions. And, I'm going to say take some time to meditate, but meditation comes in so many forms. Like maybe it's just, like this picture here, maintaining your plants gives me a huge sense of calm. Taking a walk where you're just checking out, the signs of spring that are happening. Anything that you're not like intaking information, like reading or scrolling the internet is a way that you can just kind of, make some space in your brain. So, that's what I've got for mental health.
Good advice. And I like their point that meditation is not what we feel it's supposed to be, like 15 minutes of complete brain blank time. It can just be something else active that's getting you out of your normal routine.
Yeah.
Actually, you want to take this next one too about peace and quiet? I feel like they segue nicely together.
Yes. So I can speak to this personally as well, as someone who has had a kid go through all of the stages up to 13 so far. Peace and quiet is hard to come by when you're sharing a living space with other humans. But you know what? Like, it's also necessary, especially if you identify as more of an introverted person who needs a lot of recovery time. So for what I've found is just being able to communicate, whether it's to your spouse or even your kids. I know it's harder the younger they are, but that you explain that you need the quiet time or the, concentration time. And it's okay to shut your door. It's okay to turn on a screen to entertain people for like you don't have to feel the parent guilt. because that is a necessity to have some uninterrupted time. So another thing that worked for me when Gabe was really young is either becoming an early morning person or a late night person. Like, so when Gabe was 2, I was still in college, and I totally pulled some all-nighters at the university with him, like in his car seat underneath the desk while I was like banging out projects. And I also like kind of had to force myself to become a morning person, you know, later on when I had a 9-to-5 job, because like you can't work during the day. At night you have your parent role, and the only time I could find to like do my grown-up stuff was between like 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. So it's tough, and I guess I just want to say like solidarity, but know that that time is totally crucial, and you know you don't need to feel parent guilt for that. It's just like an extra layer of stress.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that it's flexible. Like maybe it's early mornings for a couple of years and it changes as your kids get older. Oh, we have a really good one here. This is a technique that Aurora suggests. No, you have to play.
Oh, I know it is.
Okay, what parents have this trick in your back pocket? Who's building that thing tomorrow, right? Yes, good stuff. Okay, it's so good. Jacqueline just added a good point. We're all being reminded that structure really does help us make progress, and setting up routines does lower stress. It's true. It's like we know these things, but actually putting them into practice is the harder part. I don't have it here right now, but I had this thing called the point system. And essentially I was trying to build good habits, and I feel like I was beating myself up every day for not being like as healthy as I should be. So I wrote out all these habits, and every morning I would, with a dry erase marker, like mark the ones that I had done for the previous day. And then I would chart it. I sound like such a dork, but I would chart the points, right, over a 30-day period. And so I didn't care if I went out with my girlfriends and drank and ate too much and tanked, a really low point day. What I cared about was over time, is that trend line increasing? Over time, am I practicing better habits and am I being healthier? And so that's something I'm thinking about actually reinstalling right now, so that we actually are being good about procedure. And I'll share my checklist if you guys want to actually see that later. And Kim Grief, oh man, that's awesome. She's offering free yoga classes via the Anchorage Rock Gym YouTube, and she's so good. So that's a great suggestion. Sweet. Oh, nope, we don't need that again. Okay, so this tip number 9 ties to a lot of what I was talking about earlier, where I'm a huge advocate for a loose ends day. Essentially, you're batching all of those micro little to-dos, those email responses, all of those things that are not deep work. They're important, but they're not going to take us an hour and a half to do each, right? So I have a running list going where I park those things, so that on usually a Thursday or a Friday, I can knock out taking care of them. So a lot of times that's actually just a physical list that's being built, but a lot of times I'll also, if it's not going to be a loose end I take care of that week, it might be something I take care of in a month or 2, but I do still value it. I'll put it on our Trello board. So I don't know how many people have used Trello before, but this is the one that Aurora and I use, and others that work with us. So we have like our resources tab for links to all these things that we regularly use. And then Aurora has a row, I have a row, and then we, others on the team do as well. And we move those tasks to complete when they're done. And it's a nice place to just park really random loose ends that you don't want to lose, but you might not take care of them this week. Another thing to recommend on the whole loose ends day is sometimes you realize when you wait a whole week that not actually everything needs done that you thought needs done. And especially right now, I think it's important to figure out what cannot be done and it's still fine. Aurora, do you want to talk about resources?
Yes. So resources is the last thing, and these are just some productivities. Obviously, you all use Zoom because you're here now, but Google Hangouts is another one that I've seen, or Skype. They all have very similar tools. And Trello, you just saw the screenshot for. It's really great for like project management or task management for teams, because like and then it's really flexible, a really flexible system. You can set it up a lot of different ways. Even if you're a solo person, you can use it for different tasks that you're working on. Meredith mentioned Aloe Moose for yoga. Obviously, there's a lot of yoga teachers who are moving to a online model. So like just Googling them and seeing what they're up to is, and I liked that there was supporting them by Venmo or something like that is a great way to kind of keep them alive while they're keeping us alive. And then Slack. Love Slack. It's basically like a running kind of like work chat, but it's not blowing up your phone with
or your email.
Yeah. So also you can share files. And one thing that's not on this list also from working at home is a website called WeTransfer, which is a really good free resource for sending big files that are too big for your email. I actually have all of these links and then a few bonus ones aggregated here, and I'm just going to drop them into the chat real quick.
Yeah, awesome, thanks. And the Slack one, I can't underemphasize how useful I find that. We actually use that to communicate just here as a family of sorts, so that we don't have to be on our phones, because that represents other distractions. So even if I'm being told dinner is ready, I will get a Slack message about it. So it's a really nice way for, especially Aurora and I, we don't work together in the same office, only all but maybe 4 or 5 days a month. And it's how we have daily communication and really regular and very human interaction. So highly recommend it because you can use it for free. And I just added this as a bonus. Here are my favorite Spotify playlists for deep work. I think having good music can be really key to getting you in the right mindset. So we'll actually send this out, and I'm going to add a couple more to it. But these are all playlists that I really like and go to when I, need some new tunes to get into the vibe. My favorite for sure is Tropical House Instrumental, but I've pretty much completely abused it and can't listen to it as much anymore because I just listen to it way too often. But yeah, like all of these are good ones. So you bet, everyone's saying, please send. We will make it pretty and we'll post it on the Facebook page. And yeah, Tasha loves Unsplash. Girl, me too. That is the best resource. So that wraps up our kind of top 10 questions that we wanted to share with you, or tips. And we're curious what else you guys are doing that you are finding helpful that could be shared with a kind of broader group. So feel free to either drop that in the chat box or just unmute yourself and add some tips here so we can aggregate them for others.
Or any questions you have. Well, you have the resource of, almost 40 people who can chime in.
Yes, and Jennifer just said EDM focus would be good because she's running emergency operations. I can get you a bunch more other EDM playlists that are good, so stay tuned. I'll send you some more. The Pomodoro technique. Sophia, could you actually speak to this one? Because I forget the specifics of how it works. It's like setting a 20-minute timer, right?
Yeah, this is one that I don't use all the time because sometimes I give in to allowing myself to be distracted. But when I really need to sit down like I'm trying to do a big paper or something, essentially it is 20 minutes of work and then like I want to say 2-minute break. You can kind of change it to whatever works for you, like to be a 2 to 5 minute break. And then you repeat that for about 2 hours. So 20 minutes on, no distractions. You don't get up to get a snack. You don't check your phone. And then you get that 5-minute moment of relief to say, oh my gosh, what is happening on Facebook? I've got to know. And so then you do that for about 2 hours, and then you get a 20-minute break. And that's where you'd say, okay, I'm going to get a snack or walk around. But it's just a really good way of, if you're like me, sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to work for the next hour, might be really unrealistic based on like having to check text messages or something, but I know that I can sit down for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of a nice way if you have trouble really hitting your stride. It's a more manageable way to say, okay, I'm going to force myself to do only work because I know that I'm going to get that little bit of relief in 20 minutes.
Nice. I will do that actually when I'm grant writing too, and you're in the thick of not wanting to write your narrative. You're like, I can do 20 minutes of focus. Fran just posted a good link, tomato timer. I'm guessing that actually like sets the timer and alarms you or tells you, Fran, and that's what Sophia uses. So there you go. Cool. Lots of good resources. I have to check that out. Dee, you've got an idea for proper posture? Let's hear it.
Yeah, no matter which chair I tried at my house, I couldn't find the right one that was the right height for my desk. And in addition to that, I found myself cheating. So if I have arms on my chair, I will lean and slouch.
Yeah.
And so I just had to switch to a ball, and it works great.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I actually stand probably 70% of the day too. And I just got it really cheaply off of Amazon, which I don't know if that's considered an essential product to be shipped right now. But it's really helpful because I can actually bring it up and stand most of the day and then bring it down when if I just need to sit. So something else for people to consider.
I was having problems with my chair too, or posture, and I ended up realizing that I actually needed to boost my screens up. So I have my laptop sitting on like 3 big books so that it's because I don't type on that, so I just use it as a screen, and then my monitor I can move up and down. But so if you're having problems, maybe try adjusting your screens instead of your chair and see if that helps.
Yeah, it's a good point. Bringing your head up so you've got that 90-degree angle and we're not angling down or up.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Steve's got an adjustable keyboard holder that goes up and down, so that's really awesome because I'm struggling with that too, like keyboard height and screen height, getting that quite right. Katie just shared a presentation on how to effectively manage nonprofits from home, which is totally cool. I'm going to check all those out. We'll aggregate this list and send it out. Yeah, Steve, I really do like this one, having 2 to 3 chairs. So you've got, drafting chair, regular office chair, and a table that goes up and down. I agree. Like having multiple positions is really helpful. Like sometimes I sit, sometimes we're standing, sometimes I'm on a couch. So yeah, multiple positions does help. Jamie had her husband cut a board to put onto the treadmill so you can walk while working. Wait, where are you? I want to see it. There it is. Okay, if you guys look at your video, you can see, you can unmute yourself if you want and it'll bring you up.
So he just cut this board. It's removable and it actually goes across my bathtub too. So when I walk to the bathtub for a glass of wine, and I work in my bathtub sometimes, actually, I put it in the bathtub. I'll have a glass of my laptop right there. But
wow, that is next level.
No, we do that in our house. We have a special board called the bathtub board. It's right across.
He cut it and so it's got a little thing here to hold it onto the treadmill so it doesn't move. And I only walk at 1, the speed of 1. It's not long. But when I'm not doing anything super intense and I can, I type, I study, I write papers on the treadmill and stuff. So it's my favorite little life hack.
This is awesome. Cool. Plus the bathtub one. Didn't know that. Learn something every day, crew.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing if Fran has it too. So that's
you just have to be really careful.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is for it to slip and your laptop falls in.
Yes.
Sometimes instead of putting it across the tub, we put it from the toilet to the edge of the tub.
Yeah, definitely. I'm I would need the safety protocols in there. If it can go wrong, I will drop it in the water. Oh, cool. Yeah, Lori's using a saddle chair at work, bringing it home during closure. Yeah, those seem really awesome because they don't actually have a backrest, right? It's sort of like it's a great idea. Well, saddle chair. And Jennifer just got a donation of 144 pallets of bananas, which is absolutely insane. So, yeah, hopefully get some of those out to Valdez. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. What a random thing to have in Alaska of all places too. So That's awesome. Anybody else have any other tips or questions or things that they want to share with the group at large? Sweet. Well, nice. I guess everybody, we want some banana pops to be sent out. Okay, no, it's all good. Sweet. Thank you guys for hanging out, learning something new. Would love to see, even if you want to share pictures of your workspace and how you're making it work on our Facebook group so others can get inspiration. That would be cool. Very proud of everyone for making things work when you've not otherwise had to work from home. We'll aggregate this list of things that people suggested and especially get out the Spotify playlists so that you can get some new jams for being productive.
Yeah.
Cool.
And for those of you who are not enrolled students and learn grant writing, there's also a event on the Learn Grant Writing Facebook page that you can post your workspace from, and we can all see.
Yeah. Ooh, Tasha, Deep House Relax is one of my all-time favorites. She just suggested that one as well. Got to get it added. Cool. Well, right on, everybody. Hope you're doing well, and we'll catch you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Sure. See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks. You bet. See ya, Tina. Bye, Debbie.